I've got a fever, and the only cure is more Korean monitors. I knew a guy that the only cure was more cowbell, but fortunately my tastes are a little more expensive, or less expensive, depending on how you look at it. But this is the 324KS from Crossover. This is an AHVA type panel. Sometimes you see that written as AHIPS. VA, not to be confused with the vertical alignment in the particular AHVA designation. It is an IPS type panel, but it's the Advanced Hyperviewing Angle IPS type panel. Let's take a look. It is 3840 by 2160, so when I say 4K, I mean 3840 by 2160 and not 4096. But it's an IPS type panel. That means it's going to have backlight bleed and some other things. I anticipate that. Let's unbox it and see what happens. This is directly from Korea. I have not actually unboxed it yet. Here, you know, in 5 days. It's crazy. How is this even possible? Let's take a look. I got my Amazon affiliate link for the lovely Victorinox knife yet, because probably should. Because the more affiliate links I get, the more crap I can buy from Korea. So there's our first box. Then in here we've got the panel. Now, as you can see, if I can get it in focus, there we go. There's lots of padding and bubble wrap and that sort of thing, which is good when you're dealing with a monitor like this. Comes with a warranty card, which is important. I don't know what I'm doing. Power cable. I didn't do it. Whew. Lovely. Okay, we got our display, got our power and display port and audio cables. Now look, depending on where you get your panel from, the display port cable may or may not be dodgy. Just keep that in mind. Got your foreign power adapter, but look, it's just a regular power cord. Any power cord will work. You can replace it, or 99% of the time there's an adapter in the box to adapt it to your local, power. And then of course you got your 3.5mm audio cable if you need that. Most of the time you don't. Trusty Victorinox. All right, let's unpack the foot. Okay, here's our power brick. I'm gonna take the plastic and put that in the box. Yes, that is in the box. Okay, it's our power adapter. Look at that. See, I was pretty sure there was one of those in there. Look at that. Awesome. All right. Here's part of the foot. Another couple parts to the feet. I think it's pretty well it. There was another bag in the box. There are remote, screws, and batteries. Wow, it even comes with a Phillips screwdriver. Gonna go ahead and take the plastic off. Now let's arrange the table so we can do kind of a shot. It's our power cord. This is our jog wheel thingy, the menu button. Two more buttons. Infrared. This lovely brushed texture. Then on the back, we've got our two speakers, speaker 1 and speaker 2, and then a mount. Now it does have a 100mm VESA mount here that you can see. You know, this is the VESA mount. You can see it's got this nice texture. You've also got this, lovely speaker grill that I was mentioning before. And then in terms of connectivity, So you can see we've got 3 HDMI and 1 DisplayPort. PC audio in as analog, headphones out, optical SPDIF, and of course power. Now the power brick is one of those funky 4-pin power connectors, so you know, bear that in mind. Then we've got a little bit of room to breathe for bass and our connectors. Then we've got our feet, our stand, and our screws that we need to assemble. And then of course we've got our warranty card and our manual and our remote. Now we got to put this thing together. So this really shouldn't be too bad. Now fortunately, all the screws are exactly the same, so you cannot possibly mess this up. Oh yes, a real screwdriver is a pretty good experience. So I appear to have ended up with 2 extra screws. Not really sure how that happened, but okay. We've got our monitor put together with our lovely stand. We're going to take our 2 extra screws. We're going to put them back in the bag in case we need them, because you never know. All right, let's stand it up. Look at that. That's a nice monitor. And you got tilt, no height adjustment, of course, but it does have a 100mm VESA mount, so you could mount it a different way if you really want to. Nice. Very nice. Let's take the plastic off. Well, let's hook this thing up and see how it games. Okay, we've got our mouse cursor here. What you want to do is hit menu, go down to this menu option, and then the first option there, and then up to English. And then you're in English language, which is good, probably. So what options we got? Aspect ratio, I'm going to set this to 1:1. And this, I'm gonna, ECD is standard. We really need we need something other than the login screen here to see. Oh, it's got an RTS setting, that's interesting. We need something a little better. This monitor, like all the other monitors, does have a crosshair. DisplayPort 1.2. USB firmware upgrade is supported. Multi-window mode is also supported. And FreeSync is what we want to turn on. I think we also want to turn on overdriver. I'm going to leave it on weak because I'm not sure what it does yet. Here we go, booting to Windows. Let's get our mouse and keyboard. Woot. You got 2 buttons along the bottom, target and FPS RTS. Those correspond to the buttons on the back that let you control that. The labeling is mixed up. If you hit FPS RTS, you get a crosshair on your screen. And I'm not sure if you can see that. There's a red one. It's a nice high-resolution 4K on-screen reticle. And of course you can turn it off with another click. The other button changes the display mode. This monitor features 3 different types of metal, and all of them are kind of an attractive finish. This is sort of a brushed aluminum black, sort of almost anodized feeling, aluminum outer shell. Then we've got a silver brushed aluminum along the bottom, and then this is definitely some sort of like nickel alloy something or other, I'm not really sure, that's been powder coated and baked for the foot. So this is a nice sturdy metal foot, it's not going anywhere. And then you've got a metal frame with a plastic back. It's a nice textured plastic back. There's ample screws around it, and again, a metal mount, 100mm VESA mount, which is great. I think the fit and finish on this monitor is one of the more attractive that I've seen from Korea. You can see, you know, the bezel, the metal grain, and metal work that comes from it. That's just a nice finish. do still need to take off some packing tape. And then along the bottom, it's another different finish, sort of silver. And then the feet is like a powder coated silvery metal kind of a deal. Overall, it is an extremely satisfying monitor if you're looking for a high quality panel. And so we're doing a little bit more testing than we normally would because it is a higher quality panel. It does, of course, support FreeSync out of the box. Didn't have to do anything special for that. FreeSync is on. This is on an R9 Fury, so a little bit older GPU, but it does work. So let's try some gaming. Let's do a quick benchmark with Tomb Raider and see how that goes. This is at 3840 by 2160. With FreeSync on, I think. Pretty sure. Very little motion blur. So here you can see even at 70 hertz, well, it's hard, you can't really see it on the camera, but there's a little bit of frame skip going on. Let's see what we're working with in terms of uniformity. I can definitely tell it gets a little bit darker as it goes toward the bottom of the screen, but tilting the display resolves that so that I'm looking at it more straight on from a standing position. The more perpendicular the display is to my eyes, the more uniform it appears, but I can see that there's still some inuniformity in the background, like there's sort of a darker line here, but it's very, very slight. Now on this particular display, we did end up with one bad pixel right there, but you know, honestly, I can't see it from sitting far away. Now let's talk for a second about pixel densities. This thing is 4K and 32 inches. This is the absolute smallest size that you can get away with without using any display scaling whatsoever. And I think that it's on the small side to be able to get away with that, unless you've got really good eyes. Now I can get away with it. My eyes aren't that great, but I get a prescription, so it works out. 32 inches of 4K, I can run it at 100% as long as I sit fairly close to the display and the display is really bright. This display is really bright, works out. 40 inches really is the ideal resolution. How do you know that? So, well, if you've got a 27-inch 1440 monitor, your pixel density is going to be a little lower than the pixel density with this thing in 4K and 32 inches. But a typical 1080p monitor that's 22, 23 inches is going to be a little less than 100 pixels per inch. A 27-inch monitor, 1440, depending on which exact panel you have. A 27-inch monitor may be 26 inches, it may be 26 and a half, it may be 27, depending on the panel. You're going to be in the neighborhood of 110, 112 pixels per inch. With this thing, because it's 32 inches, you're up around 120 pixels per inch. And so we're talking about a higher pixel density. And the higher the pixel density, the more you're going to need display scaling of some kind. And Windows display scaling is awful. This will let you run with 100% display scaling only if your eyesight is good. So you may want to do display scaling with this. But 4K, 32 inches, it's right on the line. In terms of panel quality, it's hard to get a 40-inch plus 4K monitor that approaches the quality of this panel because these panels are not really made. Dell has a 43-inch monitor that has a similar high-quality panel, but that monitor is $1,000 plus, at least at the time of this video. Overall, if you want something high quality, an IPS type display, and you want 4K, and you want 4K big enough to work in, small enough to have two of these on your desk, this monitor is pretty good for that. What's the verdict on this damn thing? Well, FreeSync. FreeSync is basically okay. Overclocking it to 70 hertz at 1080p? No. 4K, more than 60 hertz, there's not enough DisplayPort bandwidth of 4K. You're going to need DisplayPort 1.3. This is a DisplayPort 1.2 monitor. Even at 1080p though, 70 hertz, you got frame skipping with this thing. So I would say the usable FreeSync range on this thing is 45 to 48 maybe to 65 hertz. Although realistically, it's probably more like 48 to 63 hertz, 48 to 63 FPS. Now, if you drop down to below that, does the software double it or something? Playing Tomb Raider was pretty good. I didn't have any tearing, didn't really have anything weird going on, but I really didn't spend a lot of time testing it either. So actually that's on our shopping list, is to get a Leo Bodnar timing device and a color calibration utility and some other stuff if we're gonna fart around with Korean monitors, and that's what you guys wanna see. Got a lot of other stuff to do too. I don't wanna get too bogged down in doing just hardware, but I like these things, I like getting a deal. So it's sort of a lot of fun. What's the overall verdict? Well, in 32-inch monitors for gaming and general purpose, if you can run display scaling, these have been my favorite monitors. The Crossover 324K was my favorite monitor from Korea in terms of picture quality and in terms of stability and in terms of everything else. This, because it is an IPS type panel, does have a little bit of backlight bleed. There is a little bit of, an image quality problem with panels from Korea, but overall it's not bad and they're pretty inexpensive. This is 32 inches, and I think the optimal size for 4K with no scaling is probably like 40 inches, 39, 40, 42 inches, something like that. For programming, if it was just programming and productivity, I probably wouldn't choose this monitor. I'd rather go with something larger. But in terms of picture quality, I really like this monitor. I really like the new foot too. The new foot is sort of simple, no nonsense. It gets the display high enough off the ground. I'm still going to use my VESA monitor mounts, but the VESA layout on this one is weird. If I'm going to use a special setup where there's like one bar with multiple arms, it's going to be weird because the VESA mount on this monitor is not centered on the back. It's sort of lower to the bottom. It is what it is. Overall though, it's a really good value for what it is. I really like it. I'll probably pick up some more of these. I actually got two just to fart around with and needed them for some other stuff. But we'll probably pick up two more. Not anything related to this for another project, but I thought, well, I might as well kill two birds with one stone and do a review, so here we are. If you picked up one of these and you have any thoughts, good or bad, do share. A lot of people get stuff and you never hear from them. You only get the one where it was like, oh, I got one of these and there was a roach smashed in the middle of the panel. It's like, well, that happens sometimes. But if you picked one up and you had a good experience, you should let us know in the comments. Let us know in the forums at Level 1. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.